welcome to Cybertopia Cast Interviews. Today we are talking to Morgan, who played Zappp in Cybertopia Season 1. Hi Morgan, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Zappp?
Hi, I'm Morgan, aka Tempest. My pronouns are they and them. I'm just a general RPG player. I have dabbled in writing TTRPGs, but I'm on a bit of a break for a series of life crises that are hopefully over soon.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And at the moment, I really can't be found anywhere other than to see me in my profile from 8 months ago. And
Mate, I don't
silence.
blame you. All the social medias are just a dumpster fire these days.
Oh,
so.
They really are. Like, I even tried signing on to, like, Blue Sky and Mastodon, and I think it was because of the gap of, like, Twitter is trash. Suddenly, my brain went, wait a minute. Why am I trying to communicate this way? Like, I recognize that 2 years prior, I'd gone, okay, I'm going to try to get on board with the whole Twitter thing. I'm going to learn to do the Twitter communication. It's a whole new language of how to speak to people. And I think I got on board fairly well. But in that very short couple of months gap, I immediately lost my ability to speak it again.
It's all changed. It's all different as well anyway now. You can't treat it the way we did in like 2019.
Just the psychology of it as well. I just felt weird about it. It didn't feel, I don't know, like how I wanted to engage with the world anymore. I think I'm much happier being the TTRPG author who just occasionally sends out posts apologizing for missing a deadline.
The hermit just doing the writing and the reclusion.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I played Zappp. Tell me, how did we get around to how many P's are in the name Zappp?
I just kind of spam the key whenever I write it. It's generally around 5.
Because I think I've only ever written it with 2.
Oh, right.
But I find it really amusing that, I think you do just add several P's to the end. And I just think that's really cool. I don't even know what it means or how it happened, but I think it's just an interesting little eccentricity of Zappp, maybe.
I think when you created them, I was just like, how many P's is that? 1, 2? You're like, I don't know, how I mentioned you like. So I just do it.
It's funny, I'm not really a min-maxer when I play RPGs at all, but I find that when I play your games, my need to make sense of the absolute freedom that your games give us to do whatever we want means that I do end up kind of slightly power gaming the character traits a little bit. So like, Zappp is definitely built to do something very specific and do that well.
No, I think Zappp had quite a varied skill set, and their loadout, it covered a bunch of different things, and I think the flexibility of the system allowed you to do that, where you could kind of use a lot of things at the same time, but I don't think it was often that you were really piling on all the modifiers in great numbers.
I definitely felt like I envied some of the other players just pure aesthetics. Like, you could tell with some of them, the aesthetics came first, and I was a little bit envious of them.
Oh, really? I always assumed that Zappp, the whole glamorous, androgynous thing, was the starting point of Zappp. Okay, tell me about Zappp, and how did Zappp come about?
That's a really good question.
If you think back over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago at this point, like
I don't think you're wrong. I think Game of Thrones had ended. It had just been kind of a thing. I think this back when we were originally starting our characters and talking about what Cybertopia was going to be, then that Star Wars film had come out where Gwendolyn Christie had played one of the shiny tin can First Order member. And then I think in the middle of it, we might have had hints of Gwendolyn Christie in the Addams Family TV show as well.
Okay.
But I've always been a little bit fascinated with Gwendolyn Christie because she reminds me a lot of me in the aspect of just being a kind of bigger boned, taller AFAB human and just having this desire to be aesthetic, to be fashionable, to be interesting, while at a fundamental level contrasting with the social norms of what it is to be a fashionable person.
Right.
And I think Gwendolyn Christie has really done an amazing job of just oozing aesthetic as a human.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm jealous of this. But also the fact that she's managed to have a really successful career as a performer, which is something I always wanted to do. And I know that others like us struggle a lot with where we fit in with expectations of us as performers. What's our pigeonhole, basically? Where do we fit into that? Actually, interestingly enough, I just listened to an interview by Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. So he started this podcast that he wanted to be a business podcast. And in another one of his interviews, he gets made fun of by Jimmy Carr for still calling it a business podcast. But he just interviews all of these really interesting people. And the way Steve puts it, he's following his curiosity. So whatever he's curiosity in, that's kind of what leads and who he interviews and what, publicity tour he latches onto and brings people in from. So he was talking to Rebel Wilson, and she was talking about the same thing as well, with just sort of trying to find her niche and about how she's really thought about how women are put into either one of two categories, either potential partners, so the sex-related category, or they're put into the friend/funny category. And it often relates to just fitting into visual norms.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you don't fit into a visual norm, you get more out of trying to be friends and funny. And she found that larger women, heavier women, got more laughs than other kinds of women. And so she actually played into that a lot in her career. And so for people like Gwendolyn Christie and me, who are physically domineering humans, I don't know what our niche is. I genuinely don't. And the fact that Gwendolyn Christie managed to catch a foothold and even play into that is just wild and amazing to me. And I really appreciate that about her. And I think right before we sat down for a session 0, I read an article in Vogue about her and about her playing around with style and fashion. And I think she has a partner who's a fairly influential person in the fashion industry as well. And I imagine that helped a lot. And I think she's also got a little bit more bringing up privilege than I ever did. But and that definitely helps a lot. But honestly, just to have someone like me that visible in the world is a big deal to me.
So effectively, you created Zappp to be this kind of projection of a strong, powerful, well, not woman, but a strong, powerful,
physically impressive person. Do you know what? Who's definitely femme or femme/androgynous, maybe on the femme side of androgynous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think still androgyny is just as powerful in this category for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it came through in just the way you played them. The gender was never a thing. It was just they were a powerful figure.
Right.
In every scene. And it's something that has come up multiple times during these interviews. I'm sorry to pile on any pressure, but you are a strong favorite amongst cast and audience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people love Zappp, man. Like, yeah, Zappp is very popular. And I think all of the characters, not just the players, but the characters kind of look up to Zappp as being like, they could be our leader sort of thing.
Oh, no. You don't want Zappp as a leader.
They've got it all figured out. Is what has literally been said.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
No, okay. Zappp, and to an extent me, is all very, it's a facade. I'm playing a character of myself who is confident and knows what's going on. And I think, it's that eternal struggle for respect and recognition that you stick your nose into things and you act confident because you want people to agree with you. You need the validation that you have the brain, that you have the ability. But when it comes to responsibility, that is an entirely separate thing. An entirely separate thing. And I think Zappp would be like, oh, good luck with that. And I'm absolutely there with them on that.
Dad's definitely going to throw some cats amongst pigeons in season 2, I think. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing how that plays out. I mean, that sounds really cool to me.
But yeah, so as I was saying earlier, right? I mean, Zappp had a pretty broad range to himself. They had the whole domineering personality thing and the physical dominance trait, but they also had the shiny armor plating and the fingernail knives and also a drone. They had a whole bunch of things.
Okay. I think I saw them very much as the sort of special ops character. Like the black special ops character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get in there, get it done, be surgical, be stealthy if necessary, put on a role if necessary, kind of thing.
Stealthy, really?
Well, stealthy in a social sense. I don't mean stealthy in a Navy SEALs sense.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, they definitely played into a role in the scenes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
They were a character within a character a lot of the time.
Yeah, and that's fun for me. I love doing that kind of stuff. So I think that's definitely my flavor. I love quirky procedurals. Like, and of any flavor, anything that's like a quirky procedural. So we're talking Dresden Files. We're talking anything on TV, Castle, Monk, you know, that kind of stuff. I eat that stuff up. And to me, I think Zapp's build was more of a kind of Chuck / James Bond kind of spy character, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So more of the sort of social espionage, but also it very quickly devolves to murdering people.
Yeah, I was thinking of the more of like a bad cop kind of the good cop, bad cop buddy.
Okay. Yeah, I could get there. I can see that. They definitely would have a temper.
Yeah. The intimidation factor was their big thing, right?
Yeah. So even when they weren't in your face, the whole visual design of this character, Zapp, was meant to intimidate you.
Mm-hmm. So, on a personal level, do you have any favorite moments for Zapp?
Do you know what? The one that really sticks to me, and again, this is probably because of my insecurities rather than me thinking it was a really cool moment. I really thought it was cool when you let me basically slit the throat of that guy in the finale.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was good. Oh, you had some good moments.
I thought, I hope he doesn't make this easy. I know I'm asking a lot, you know, because it's that thing that people ask for in RPGs a lot. They want that cool slit in the throat moment, you know, and they want it to be, oh, slitting someone's throat is so easy. And obviously they're just going to die, right? And I just thought, okay, but this makes so much sense right now. So I thought, okay, let's bring it up and see how Ben rolls with this. And if he says no, I'll just drop it. It's okay. And so when you rolled with it, and then it was that whole thing of him like squirting blood everywhere.
And then KO comes in and punches the nail.
Yes. I thought that was really cool. And I think it let me do something that was very suited to my character, but not in a massively overpowerful way. Although I think I could hear the gears in your brain crunching while we were working out how that was going to actually play out. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it did make your life a little difficult.
So I suppose what was happening there was that he wasn't low enough health to be killed outright in one single hit, right? So I had to try and think of a way that you could jab this guy in the neck, but not completely kill him.
Right. Yeah.
And it played out so well.
It did.
And especially because that ended up being the guy that was left at the end, the last one standing of the group.
Yeah.
And then you had the big whole conversation about, do we kill him? And you're actually there trying to patch him up with his strips of shirt and stuff. That whole thing. Your part of the finale was fantastic. And then, to be fair, the whole finale, all of the different parts of it were brilliant. But that whole scene was very much not at all how I expected that to go. Because I set it up, right, entirely as just a battle. You were just told, go in and kill these people. And so I was thinking you'd just go in and start, like, murdering and whatnot. But you dropped in and you started playing it straight. And particularly you were leading that and being like, Yeah, we just fell through the roof, man.
I don't know if I missed something because it felt a little bit like the whole group was not entirely sure what was going on. Or maybe it's like you said, people were looking to me for leadership and I got something wrong. And they were all like, okay, Zapp. I must have missed the whole thing where it was essentially just go in and murder Hoba the place.
No, I think you're right, actually. The way it was set up to you guys, to the characters, the whole idea of Amazing Corp and Tabula Rasa and stuff, and the chain of command there is plausible deniability. So they only tell you a small amount of exactly what you might need to know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you were told just go in and take care of these people, take these people out or whatever. But you weren't given any details of exactly what or how or whatever. So you just kind of dropped into it. And you players having that kind of moment of consternation is the same as what the characters would have felt, right?
There was definitely a lot of calculation as far as we knew that the bottom line for Amazing Corpse was basically don't do anything catastrophic for fear that it might wind up in Amazing Corp's lap. Right? Mm-hmm. It was think hard and be smart before you go and blow the whole situation up.
Yeah.
And so I think upon landing there, that was kind of the mindset that we were starting from, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But also there was enough of you telling us just take care of them that we're sat there going, should we just kill them? Like,
yeah.
How many steps do we take before it results in just killing them? That's what we were basically negotiating as a group before we started really playing the scene, was basically, what are our thresholds for this?
Yeah, it came out really well. I'm really happy with how that whole finale came up. But like I said, every scene Zapp was in throughout the whole season was fantastic. And I still fondly think back to that first session you did, experimental procedures. That was wild, man. Like, just the introduction of the characters alone, and then the setup before you even left Amazing Core, and you're like flirting with Smart Cool Man.
Oh my god. It's my injury, now like, I'm pretty sure that I don't think Chris feels the same way that I do about this, but my headcanon is very much that Smart and Zapp are like dating on and off casually, not serious, you know what I mean? Zapp's like, I don't care about you, and then leaves at 3 a.m. But Zapp's always the first one to call back.
I think that Smart Coolman is enough of a head empty kind of character that they may be dating Zapp and not realizing it.
Oh yeah.
They're just like, yeah, we go for dinner all the time.
Both of them are like, we're just friends. I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you mean? Friends hug and kiss all the time. But yeah, experimental procedures. What an episode, especially for an early one in the season as well, of the madness, the chaos, the hilarity just throughout.
It was so much fun. So much fun. I was really, really pleased with how that turned out. Playing with strangers is always really difficult for me. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely at my best when I can play with people that I know, because it takes me a few sessions to get a handle on the dynamics and the patterns at play. And then I know exactly how to boost up a character. And it's that group improv thing. You know, it takes me a few sessions to learn how to play well as a team and give everybody their time in the limelight, and I can guess better where someone is going with a bit or a thing that they want to try, and I can help make that happen. So playing with strangers is very difficult because there's just so much guesswork as far as what people are after in their role play.
Well, I guess I got lucky that you three ended up together on that particular mission, because you just vibed so well.
Oh, we really did. Really did. I mean, that's definitely, I'm hesitant to say that's my absolute favorite moment out of all of the game, was the whole negotiating, stabbing Smart.
It's so stupid. And it was just amazing.
It really was just so dumb.
See, I've submitted Cybertopia to a couple of award things, and that is the episode that I always submit.
Oh, wow. That's very flattering. I'm really pleased to hear you say that. That's cool.
It's very good roleplay throughout, and everything just worked so well. You had Zapp and you had Smart doing nonsense interactions with each other, and then you had a fucking tea robot that was going around being a gentleman, and the combination was the wackiest group of characters, and you all just pulled it off so well.
It felt so natural. And what's funny is, I've heard after the fact that you have a lot of very straight games besides that one. Like, this was pure comedy.
Yeah, that was,
and it's just what we did, you know? I don't know. I do feel like I am somewhat to blame for that, because I will crack a joke where there isn't one.
I mean, in fairness, all of the three of you in each of the other sessions that you were in were also hilarious in your own ways. So, yeah, it wasn't just
so
that.
It is my fault.
Yeah.
It's
like I said, you're a powerful figure in the cast and the characters, and that's influenced a lot of people. Everyone that was on Hostile Takeover also fondly remembers your nonsense bit about drugs at the door to that one. I like the shiny pills. I want the yellow ones.
I want one that's crunchy.
Yes. And it was all brilliant. That was one of my favorite moments for you. Also, on Experimental Procedures, when the receptionist goes to grab your arm to lead you out of the room, and you just kind of glare at them, and they're like, I'm so sorry.
I'm going to roll to not move.
Yeah. And you're like, she goes to grab my arm, and she just feels hard. Yeah. There was some excellent Zapp moments.
Yeah, Zapp is a really fun character. I really, really enjoy this character.
And also, actually, on the finale, the moment when the earpieces flash red and your immediate reaction, I didn't even get the words out of my mouth. You're like, they're throwing it out of your ear.
Yeah. No. I think I've just watched too much TV.
No, I mean, it's a very fair reaction. And I think for anyone in that sort of profession, in quotes.
Yeah. Right? Like, you should have that deep suspicion. Then, like, instinctual. If it's glowing red, it's bad. If it's beeping, it's bad. If it's ticking, dear God, run.
So with that in mind, about the suspicion that you obviously immediately felt as soon as that happened, when was it during that last session that you realized that Amazing Corp were going to screw you over? Was it a growing thing, or was it that sudden moment of that point?
That's a really good question. I think something definitely unnerved me about how untethered we felt as a team straight from the beginning. In the lack of specifics. I mean, to be fair, all of the instructions were kind of on the vague side.
That one was very much,
This one was especially so. And you also, I think with the previous ones, you had a good idea of what they wanted out of it. Whereas this last one, you couldn't quite feel it. I think there was also, didn't we land and there was like a pit and there was someone dead a floor or two down or something like that?
So Ray's mech had been sent in ahead to blast open the ceiling basically, and it went way further than anyone was expecting or that you were told.
Yeah.
So he actually crashed through several floors of the building and then was not moving after that.
Yeah. So I think that was definitely peculiar, but I don't think it became a conscious thought until I think the earphones. Yeah, I think that's maybe asking too much of me in the flighty, I'm just skating by on the seat of my pants kind of role player that I am, to sort of have me pick up on a lot of subtleties like that about how things are going to go. I mean, I was definitely surprised.
Even you, who I kind of thought had it figured out pretty early on, that you weren't 100% sure about the situation either way, means that I did a apparently really good job of framing it in this ambiguous fashion.
Well, I think the struggle there as a creative really is to make it clear to people that it's not a problem of the creator, it's a problem of the plot. And that's where I think us as players were like, do we just not have enough information OC, or is this, out of character, or is this a plot design? It's a struggle. So I have a drama degree, right? And that's like 25% of your degree is getting graded on whether or not you made something appear to be purposeful. whether or not it did. And, so many times going into those Vivas and getting caught out on the instructors saying that you made a mistake and then you trying really quickly to fumble through an explanation about how that was on purpose.
Mm-hmm. I mean, either way, it worked out. It came off, right?
So. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. You made a difficult creative choice, and I think it worked out the way that you wanted to in the end. And that's what matters. You're not going to be sitting in a Viva trying to explain to somebody about how you did it and then getting marked on it. So...
Well, I plan to relieve this kind of pressure from myself almost entirely in season 2 because I'm going to basically give all creative control over to you players. So I'm basically going to put you all in charge. You're no longer going to be employed by Amazing Corp, right? So you're not going to be given missions. You're not going to be sent to places to do things.
Right.
You're going to be deciding where you want to go and who you want to see and what you want your characters to be doing. Rather than me shepherding you, I'm giving you complete player agency here.
Okay, so please tell me that at least one of these episodes starts with Smart and Zapp on a, and I'm using air quotes here, date, hanging out as friends at a cafe on the street somewhere, and then something blows up around them.
I mean, hey, if that's what you two want to do for an episode, then we can absolutely.
It's just one of my favorite tropes, the whole everything is too good to be good kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could absolutely see something like that happening.
Yeah. The films, they love their cafe moments where everything suddenly gets really normal and human for like 2 seconds until something terrible happens.
Yeah. And then you just spring into action.
Right,
Smart
exactly.
Power duo. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you've been doing so far, and I haven't taken part in any of this yet, but you've been playing world building games.
Yeah. So we've done one session of it so far, and we created 5 factions. And well, I say I just kind of oversaw whilst 5 players created their factions and had them develop in certain ways. And I've made a map of the city and stuff, and the factions are nonsense. They're silly and amazing.
Good.
And there's been some incredible things come out of it. I can't wait to...
Good.
I haven't started editing on that yet, but I'm really excited for people to hear about it.
I have a feeling that Zapp's faction is going to be the sort of trust fund elite faction of some kind.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm really excited to get everyone into this game because it's really fun. It's worked out really well so far, but also like to see what people want to see in the city and what they want to see in factions and NPCs and stuff.
Yeah.
That's, as well as just being really interesting, it's going to flesh it all out so that I don't have to do too much world building before we actually go into the city for season 2.
Okay. So actually help me out with something here. I like hard sci-fi when it's just me in a book sat in my lounge, you know what I mean? But playing an RPG that's like hard sci-fi or Cybertopia, I keep feeling like I'm using the term wrong, that it's just the name of your game.
I mean, that
but
is,
actually, it's also the genre. Cyberpunk, kind of that's what...
I've always kind of issued away from calling it cyberpunk because at least in season 1, you basically play cops. Like, you're not cops, you're corporate agents, which is very much not punk.
Yeah,
but season 2, I am going, this is full cyberpunk now.
Okay, all right. But I think this is actually probably my first sci-fi adjacent RPG that I've ever played.
Yeah, wow.
And there was definitely a moment when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to offer to play with you that I was thinking, do I want to play a sci-fi game? Mm-hmm. Because I'm always heavily intimidated by the number of details that there are to potentially get right. Because the canon in sci-fi is always huge and crunchy and detailed, right?
I guess. Like, I suppose that's because some of the biggest franchises in the world are sci-fi, right? And they've got so much depth to them. No, Cybertopia is really shallow, man. I've really not done a lot of world building around it at all. The things that happen in the missions are basically it.
So I think we know who Amazing Corp is, right? We were talking about mega corporation does everything, controls everything, and is trying desperately to maintain its grip on society, right? Mm-hmm. Who are these other factions?
This is up to you lot to decide.
Okay. Well, I mean, like the ones that you've already established with us. There's the
Mhm.
three main ones, right?
Yeah. So those three main ones, after the finale, their leadership is decimated.
Oh,
The
okay.
leadership entourages are destroyed. The factions still exist, but they're going to be in a much lower form now, like maybe splintered cells and stuff.
Yeah.
The factions that you and the other players are creating in this world building game are kind of ones that are filling the voids, filling the power vacuums. These three major anti-corporate players are now
Okay.
more or less off the board. So
I
that
get
leaves room
you.
for your inventions to come to the fore and create whatever kind of factions you want. And they shouldn't necessarily be fully going to take Amazing Corp down sort of thing, but they are smaller groups that have their own agendas and want their own things from the world.
Okay. I think I get you. I'm seeing the pattern here now. Like, I can definitely get on board with a sci-fi that blows up its lore every 5 minutes.
Yeah, man. I'm fully communist on this thing. We are doing purges all over it. So, in terms of factions, do you think that Zappp would be the kind of person that would go out to try and find a faction to join or join another group? Or do you think Zappp would stick to the people that they know?
Okay, so internally speaking, from Zapp's own psychology, I've seen Zapp as the kind of person who hangs on the fringe of the trust fund elite, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they are more of an average person that, I don't know, had some kind of luck or something that meant luck or smarts that got them in touch with some privilege. And so have a certain amount of extraordinary privilege of their own, but they are still heavily othered by this trust fund elite group, right?
Maybe they were adopted into them or like best friends with someone that was one of them or something like that.
There you go.
So kind of accepted, but not fully.
Right. Like accepted, but in the way that they know that you're still not like them. And you'll never
Tolerated.
be like them. Right. And so I think that Zappp is still very much psychologically in, and possibly even more so. I think after this whole thing with nearly dying, they could be likely to double down on their sort of trying to embed themselves with the trust fund elite.
Okay.
However, externally speaking, from a sort of purely tropes and archetypes perspective, as a creative myself, I think I would absolutely love to have that moment where someone that Zappp respects comes and demonstrates respect for Zappp, if that makes sense, and says, look, we need you.
Oh, interesting.
And Zappp having that sort of struggle of, but this has been my existence all of my life, and taking that leap into what would actually be a healthier, more successful environment to be in for them.
What would Zapp's reaction be at that moment of being told by someone that they respect that they're needed? Do you think they'd be able to keep their cool?
I don't think they would. I think they might self-sabotage. I think that they'd probably put that person down at first.
I see. Yeah, no, I can see that.
I think that first reaction, especially if it was like urgent, if it was a surprise of some kind, Zappp would probably try and make them feel small as a defense mechanism.
Oh, what? Now you need me?
Yeah. Because I think in order for Zappp to make that leap into working with these people who, in Zapp's reality, they're nobodies, they're small, they're nothing, they're a bunch of weirdos that Zappp had to work with out of some desperation, and they nearly got them killed. So, yeah, I think Zappp would play it very poorly, but it would be nice if it was the kind of situation where someone knows Zappp well enough to try more than once.
Interesting. Yeah, I can totally see these scenes. I can envisage this.
Yeah. That's me maybe wanting both the best, but also the most interesting dramatic turnout for my pet character.
I like it. I mean, part of this whole interview process has been to figure out what people like or don't like and what they're wanting. And hoping for in the future, so that then I can take those and turn them on them and use them against you. So
go for it.
What do you think Zapp's reaction is going to be to Amazing Corp throwing them under the bus?
Zapp is going to be angry. Angry, right? Super angry. But I think Zapp is going to play the social game on it, I guess. They're going to go quiet. I think maybe they haven't done any of that kind of work again since, because I think they feel like it's a gamble. Yeah, I think this may be part of the reason why Zapp doubles down with their trust fund elite situation.
They retreat to like some sort of comfort zone sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. They retreat into their comfort zone. It might not be healthy and it might not give them everything they need, but it's familiar and it's safe in the sense that they know how to play the game. Whereas I think working for Amazing Corp was them kind of going on a limb. That's what it is. They were going out on a limb for their own sake and doing a job that had nothing to do with this environment that they knew that they're comfortable with. And it was outside of their safety bubble.
Like, because we never really went into details of why people ended up working for Amazing Corp. I wonder if one of the reasons why was so that they could try and find their own path forwards and upwards.
Yeah.
Maybe they saw Amazing Corp as being this opportunity to rub shoulders with the powerful people of the city, of the world.
Sure. Gain some of their own power to be able to compete with those people that they've been trying to compete with all of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would love to sit down and just work out Zapp's whole backstory.
Go for it.
It's fun. It's so much fun.
They're a very interesting character, and they've got so many levels to them.
And I think that works in particular, and it ends up that way because I don't think about this stuff beforehand.
And then when you get to the game, it would change anyway.
Exactly. I love to be surprised by the ideas and the imaginations of the people that I play with. I love for them to introduce an idea that I can riff off of, or a bit that we can all play together, that then tells me, oh, this is a thing about my character, right? This is a thing. And then I just sort of like, I take a little mental note, and usually I have to connect the dots myself somewhere along the way. But I love characters that are informed by how the role play works out. They just end up having so much more depth than anything that I could come up with by myself.
And so often the dice tell their own story as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that definitely happened a lot in Cybertopia.
Yeah. They add that element of risk and I don't want to say randomization, but I mean, essentially just the oddities and luck of life, really, that I think makes a character, a person, a human feel more real.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So are there any loose ends you'd like to see tied up in season 2? Anything that happened in season 1 that you felt like wasn't fully resolved?
I definitely feel like I need to know more about the angle that these 3 other factions had. I feel like they had some potentially interesting, even more humanitarian sort of angles on the world, society, and whatnot. Because we were definitely playing the villains, right? We were definitely playing the cold, inhuman corporate lackeys, right?
Interesting that you say that.
Okay.
Most of the other cast have been like, it was a very kind of morally grey setup.
I felt a little bit like, because I think in the finale, we got to see actual people from these different factions, right? And I think what I saw was groups of people who were described differently enough. And there was something about like combination of aesthetic.
I just remember you being mostly angry that there was someone that was smartly dressed and an androgynous.
Yes. Oh
That's
my gosh.
2 of my things.
I forgot that was the thing. Oh, I must have put that straight out of my head.
That was a classic Zapp line.
Oh man, now I'm mad you did that to me again. That was deliberate, wasn't it? You deliberately were trolling me.
That's written in the book. That was written way before Zapp even existed.
No. You saw Zapp and he went, oh, I know how to fuck with Morgan.
You never even found out their name. That person just
no,
died
why would I need
anonymous.
to know that? They don't. Yeah, that's how they need to die. Unimportantly. Yeah, just there was something about the way that you described the factions, from aesthetics to their names and stuff like that. I had a feeling like at least one of them, or maybe there was that classic, something human about them, something with some pathos, right?
Yeah.
And that you could latch on to, only to find out that it was either a lie or they were using it to get you, or something else about the principles was just horrible.
And that's the thing with these cyberpunk kind of worlds, right?
Yeah, and that's that cyberpunk world, isn't it?
Everything you think is good is probably not, and everything that you think is bad is not necessarily. And that was the whole thing I was going for with Cybertopia and Amazing Core. Like, Amazing Core, you were sent to do things that were probably a little bit bad, but may have had some good reasoning or some good like outcomes, sort of thing. Like in experimental procedures, you were going to shut down this dodgy clinic, and the guy was clearly doing weird, dangerous shit.
Yeah. This actually puts me in the mind of maybe in the background in Zapp's retreat to their safety bubble, they are still kind of secretly doing a little research into these other groups, maybe. Maybe they're trying to find out more about who they are and what was actually going on.
Yeah, I like it. Zapp the sleuth.
Yeah. Zapp sitting at their computer at night with no lights on. Baggy eyes.
Yeah.
Looking a little bit mad, typing away at their computer.
Bottle of whiskey on their desk. Did you listen to the other episodes that you weren't in?
Okay, so as I said, I'm very neurodivergent, and this is a thing I'm slightly ashamed of. But the truth of it is, I don't hate it. In fact, I wish that I could do it. I have a lot of trouble watching and listening back to my own role play, or even not just my own role play, but just role-playing games in general, podcasts, streams. I just can't focus on it. There's something about it. I am starting to learn that with a podcast, you can speed them up.
Oh, right.
And that helps a lot.
Oh.
But I get really squirrely trying to focus on a single sensory input, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, absolutely no shade. Like, there's no shaming intended here of, like, you didn't listen to our podcast. No.
I always feel so guilty. So I have vaguely listened to the first couple of episodes. I've listened to chunks of the episodes that I was in. I haven't actually listened to the finale. I totally forgot that you were going to like splice that together and everything. And now suddenly I'm like, oh no, now I really have to listen to it. I remembered earlier today. I'm like, oh no, that was such a cool thing. So I'm going to speed it up, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try and listen to it while I'm, I don't know, doing chores or something.
I mean, in fairness, the finale is 4 parts.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in it. So, yeah. If you listen to anything, I would advise to listen to the whole finale, if you can.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of information in there that would help me moving forward, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. But also, I guess part of the point of it being such a big cast and being split parties and stuff is that the characters don't know everything that happened to everybody else. So if the players don't, it's actually not a big deal.
That's true. That's very true. And I like it when I know absolutely nothing when I start a game.
I mean, something that I'm looking forward to with doing these world building games with different groups is that when each of the characters interact in season 2, they'll each have different views of a knowledge of the various factions. They'll probably know a lot about the faction that they played in the game, and they'll know a bit about the factions of the other people that they played with, but there's going to be 2 or 3 other sets of factions they have no idea about that they'll learn from the other players as they play with them.
Well, I mean, as I've implied quite heavily, I'm very sort of improv-led when it comes to my role play and my tabletop gaming. So I love a game that where everything is very spur of the moment. I don't like knowing too much or having to do lore checks all the time. And I think one of the things that I really like about playing games with you is that you do a good job of setting me up with what I need to know to do all of my silly shenanigans.
I suppose to your benefit, we very much compartmentalized season 1. You had your mission and it was very contained. And you had the information you needed to know to do that mission and nothing else.
Well, and you gave us like a sort of really short, quick run through of what the world was and who the major players were.
Yeah.
And perhaps because it was for the podcast, we always got like a little explanation of all the characters and even the major NPCs and what they were doing and stuff like that. So we had our little refreshers right before a session. And that is the struggle with doing something like a podcast with a really large cast is the amount of time between games that I get to be involved in can be large, which makes it hard.
Was that a struggle for you? Did it feel like it was too long between sessions? Was it difficult to get back into character and stuff? Or?
There's an element of something I already struggle with already, and that's just being present while sat in front of my computer for an online game. And it being purely, again, with strangers, and also this being such a, I roll a dice occasionally. Mostly I'm just looking at the faces on my screen and trying to role play. It means that it's quite hard for me to stay present. So I think it was actually a huge benefit, to be fair, that there wasn't a lot that I needed to carry from one session to the next, other than really my character. Because I think, I had a lot of weird shit going on in my personal life and had difficulty managing the time, and just, stuff gets in the way of just trying to have a good time and playing a game.
I suppose that's also the benefit of having a big cast, right? Like, if people are having a time, if people aren't available, then that's fine. There's other people who can slot into the gaps, and that happened a lot. I mean, you were one of the people that was lucky enough to do 3 full sessions, whereas there was a few people that only did 2. So, there was a lot of stuff going on, and it works out. And I think the season came off really well.
What was it like for you? Was it a bit of a nightmare doing all the people admin? Because I have experience with that, and that can be wild.
It was a double-edged sword, right? I had the flexibility and the availability of people, which was good. We still ran into some scheduling issues at times, last-minute dropouts and that sort of thing. It happens. But, I mean, this is the first podcast I've ever run. I don't know if it would feel better to have a group that is just 4 people that you play with every week for a whole year, and you have the same date and the same time, and the consistency that you rely on in that situation is, I don't know, to me, it feels a bit more, I was going to say restrictive.
Oh, okay.
I think I'd find that quite a pressure.
So I have a time limit on stuff like that. There's a clock in the back of my head going tick, 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 tick. Okay, we're done now. But it takes me like a year and a half or so of that. But I've definitely found my experience is I will want to retire from a game before everybody else is done with it.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah. So, I mean, I think you've put together quite a diverse and interesting group of people to a level that surprises me. I remember a couple of times coming into not knowing any of these people before I'd show up for a recording and just being like, oh, damn. Okay, let's go. This is going to be interesting.
I've been very lucky with the people that have come onto the show, and the people that have volunteered their time and their energy towards this has been fantastic. The group is brilliant. I mean, naturally, I'm a white middle-aged male. I have attracted a number of similarly white middle-aged men to the podcast, but I am glad that I've gotten a fair split of gender and sexualities and ethnicities on the podcast. So I'm really happy with how that's worked out, whether or not it was a conscious thing by me or not, or if it was just a case of these are the people that like me and want to be with me sort of thing is
right. That's what I'd take from it. That's what I mean, especially if people come back, and I would come back. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a weirdo.
Yeah. I think weirdo is probably the thing that links us all together.
Right. And I love that. I love it so much. I love meeting other weirdos. It's great. No, I think I'm really impressed with the people that you've put together. Do you think now, after doing this, I mean, you're still in the middle of it now, because we're going to go into
Not
another
giving up.
season and everything. Do you think you would do it again? Clean slate? Would you do another large cast like this again?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah?
And I've watched a few streams and podcasts and stuff that have had similar large groups and drop in, drop out sort of play.
Yeah.
And it provides so many stories. It's so interesting to experience that and to have so much diversity. Diversity is the word. And diversity not just in terms of people, but in terms of attitudes and in terms of the storylines and the plot lines and the character development and stuff. Like, we've got, well, it was 16 players. We've got 15 players. I'm still impressed that I only lost one player during this whole thing.
That is a feat.
Like, 16 very different characters in a role-playing game. And I guess it helps that it's a very open system, an entirely open character generation system. But everyone has come along with different ideas that are so different that even the people that are hackers are very different hackers. And the people that are test subjects are very different test subjects, you know? So, yeah, it's really worked out in so many ways. And I'm so happy with how it's all gone. Yeah, for sure. Like, it wasn't my original plan. My original plan was I'd have 4 or 5 people who would do all 10 of the missions that I've got in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But then I put out the open casting call and I got so many responses back that I didn't know how to choose. So I just said yes to everybody. And that's how I ended up here.
Well, it's worked out, hasn't it?
Yeah, but really like when I was creating the Cybertopia system, because it was the first game that I ever designed, before I even got involved in the scene, I don't know if I even was listening to actual plays at that point. When I was playtesting it, I playtested it with my colleagues at work and stuff, and just every now and again would put out a call out to everyone who like, who wants to play tonight? And I'd get a different group each time. Sometimes it would be people who'd played before or not. And so it was quite a similar experience to how I had originally created the game, which was really nice. And I guess it brought me back to my comfort zone of just taking it easy and being flexible, drop in, drop out kind of play, which is what the system was kind of intended for from the first place.
I love that. That's really great. I need to know all of your little niches, of your niche communities, and where you find interesting people like this.
I don't know. I don't know how it all happened. Who remembers those COVID times, you know?
Oh, I know. It's like a haze, isn't it?
Okay, so we've talked a bunch about Zappp and your role in Cybertopia and stuff. You've mentioned a few times that you are a creative in the space. What kind of other stuff do you do, and where can we find it?
Oh, well, like I said, I've kind of been away from the area for a while. I still have my home group of people that I play games with, and we've been trying to do some more experimental stuff. A few weeks on this game, a few weeks on that game.
Nice.
We're just about starting to play Daggerheart.
Oh, cool.
We're doing a little short couple of sessions on that. We just finished a short game of Forbidden Lands, which is kind of turning out to be a favorite system of ours. But one of our members was running the game, trying to work out something that they want to put into like a supplement or a book and sell for themselves. Okay. So I'm still kind of involved. I've still got sort of my finger on things.
You've got some older stuff that you did before life went wild, haven't you?
Yeah. So I have a niche page. It's tempesttgames.itch.io. That's Tempest, 2 more T's, and then games, 3 T's altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my 1-pager, which is kind of a lie. It's actually 2 pages, 2 sides of an A4.
Yeah.
Corporate overgoats. Everything I have on my niche page is free. Yes. Yeah, you tested that with me. Mm-hmm. So I like putting out these little things that I put on itch because they're silly, they're free, they don't cost anything, and I can enjoy doing them. Yeah,
and that's what this is all about, really. So, yeah.
I might complete my backlog of eavesdropping on ends prompts. I don't know. I might just move on to something new. It's just how it goes, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to getting you back into Cybertopia, giving you a few fun sessions to work away at and see if we can find this interesting arc that you've got kind of thought out for Zapp here.
I think it'll be cool. I think
This
it'll be
conversation
very
has
cool.
definitely put in my head some
Yeah.
narrative events that I can insert into things.
I'm excited for that. I love handing you the rope to hang me by.